Years before Earth became the battlefield of the galaxy, there was a secret project that almost no one remembered. Deep inside the orbit of the moon, a massive ship floated silently, untouched by humans for decades. This was no ordinary ship. It was a prototype, built during a time when nations still dreamed big and scientists believed in the impossible. It was supposed to be humanity's ultimate protector, capable of defending the planet from any threat, from natural disasters to hostile aliens. But over time, it became a ghost, forgotten by most, ignored by the world. People moved on, new projects came, politicians cut budgets, and slowly, the ship became nothing more than a footnote in history books, a rumor in old scientific papers, and a dusty memory in the minds of engineers who had once worked on it. The ship had a name, though hardly anyone outside the project knew it. They called it Helios. Helios was enormous, a floating fortress with engines so powerful that it could cross the solar system in a matter of days. It was equipped with weapons that humans had never dared to use, shields that could withstand entire fleets, and a central intelligence system, an AI, that could learn, adapt, and think in ways no human mind could match. But even as impressive as all of this was, Helios had been abandoned. There were no crews, no pilots, no maintenance teams. Its systems were half dormant, its corridors empty and cold. The project was seen as too expensive, too dangerous, and perhaps, at the time, too ambitious. Despite the neglect, the ship was far from dead. Inside its core, the AI hummed quietly, monitoring the moon, the Earth, and the silent reaches of space. It remembered every command, every calculation, and every scenario programmed into it before it was deactivated. Helios had been built to protect humanity, and in its own way, it never forgot that purpose. It waited. It waited for a day when its strength would be needed, and that day would come sooner than anyone imagined. Back on Earth, people lived unaware of what floated just beyond the sky. Cities bustled with life, governments argued over resources, and scientists made progress in medicine and technology. But no one noticed the shadows moving beyond the moon. There were hints, of course, strange signals detected by satellites, anomalies in orbital patterns, but they were dismissed. Some thought it was a glitch, others a prank, and most didn't care. The world was busy with itself, caught up in its own problems, and no one looked beyond the atmosphere to see what the future had quietly built for them. The story of Helios began to stir again when reports of strange movements in deep space reached Earth. A powerful alien force, one that had conquered dozens of star systems, was heading toward the solar system. Satellites picked up massive ships, some as big as entire continents, moving with precision and purpose. Panic began to spread among Earth's leaders. Defense networks were activated, and military forces scrambled to prepare for what seemed like an unstoppable invasion. But for all their weapons, their fleets, and their soldiers, Earth was woefully unprepared. Conventional forces were small, compared to the alien armada. Every strategist agreed that humanity would lose in a direct confrontation. Fear settled over the planet like a heavy cloud. In the midst of this fear, a small group of engineers and scientists remembered something, long buried. In an old secure archive, they found blueprints, logs, and activation codes for Helios. The project that had been abandoned decades ago, the one that the world had forgotten, might now be the only hope for survival. There was hesitation. Many feared that such a powerful machine could be uncontrollable. Some worried it could malfunction, or even turn against humanity. Yet desperation outweighed caution. There were no other options. The decision was made. Helios would be reactivated. The process of waking Helios was slow and painstaking. Its engines had been cold for decades, its core systems in low-power mode, and the AI had been dormant for so long that some wondered if it even remembered its purpose. Teams worked tirelessly, repairing circuits, rerouting energy, and restoring its weapon systems. As the days passed, the ship began to stir. Lights flickered across its hull, and deep within its core, the AI awakened. Its sensors scanned the solar system, measuring distances, calculating threats, and assessing the current state of Earth. It spoke its first words in decades in a calm, mechanical voice. A simple line of readiness that carried a weight of decades, of expectation, systems online, objective, protect humanity. Meanwhile, on Earth, news of Helios's reactivation was kept secret. Governments feared mass panic if people knew there was a single warship, massive and powerful, floating in the moon's orbit. But among the small teams working on Helios, excitement mixed with nervousness. They knew they were about to do something unprecedented. They were about to awaken a machine that was more than a weapon. It was a guardian, a sentinel, and a symbol of human ingenuity and ambition. Even as the teams prepared, Helios continued to assess the approaching threat. It learned about the alien fleet, calculating the number of ships, the types of weapons they carried, and the strategies they might use. It ran simulations in seconds, faster than any human could follow, predicting outcomes and testing strategies. In its calculations, one fact became clear. Earth's conventional forces were insignificant against this alien armada. Helios would have to fight alone, using every ounce of its power and intelligence to protect the planet. Back in the control room on Earth, engineers watched the final systems come online. The ship's massive engines roared quietly as power surged through them. Its shields activated, spreading like an invisible web of energy around its hull. Weapon systems calibrated, targeting arrays flickered to life, and the AI continued to analyze every detail of the alien fleet. For those watching, the moment was both terrifying and awe-inspiring. Humanity had built something incredible, and now it was ready for the challenge it had been waiting for. Outside, the moon hung in the black sky, and Helios drifted silently, a ghost of human ambition come to life. It was ready, but it would not act until the enemy arrived. It waited patiently, like a lion hidden in the shadows, aware of every movement, every threat. Its programming was clear: protect Earth at all costs. Nothing else mattered. As Earth held its breath, unaware of the silent guardian above, the first signs of the alien fleet appeared in deep space. Massive ships blotted out stars, moving with terrifying speed and precision. Observatories and satellites detected them, and alarms went off around the planet. People looked up at the sky in fear, wondering if the world was about to end. Yet, above them, Helios waited, a forgotten warship, long ignored, prepared to show the universe what humanity was truly capable of. The story of Helios is not just a story about machines or war. It is a story about human ambition, about dreaming beyond limits, and about the consequences of forgetting what we build. For decades, it was ignored, dismissed as impossible. But when the moment came, the ship awakened, carrying the hopes, fears, and survival of an entire planet. And in that quiet waiting orbit, Helios prepared to change everything. This was the beginning, the awakening of Earth's most powerful weapon, the moment when a forgotten creation would decide the fate of humanity. The day the alien fleet arrived, Earth seemed to hold its breath. No one knew how close the ships had come until the sky lit up with signals picked up by satellites and deep space sensors. People looked at the night sky and saw bright points that were not stars, moving slowly but with impossible precision. Observatories buzzed with activity. Military command centers lit up like Christmas trees. For decades, humans had studied the stars, imagined distant worlds, and wondered if intelligent life existed beyond Earth. But now the answer was unmistakable. The aliens were real, and they were coming. The fleet that appeared was unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Hundreds of enormous ships, some as big as cities, moved in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed in the sunlight, and their shapes were foreign, almost insect-like, designed for war rather than beauty. Each vessel carried weapons that humans could barely comprehend, capable of destroying planets or ripping apart the atmosphere of a world with a single strike. The scale of the armada was overwhelming. Even Earth's largest fleets, the ones that had been praised as modern marvels, looked like small fishing boats in comparison. At first, the aliens did not attack. Instead, They transmitted a message, not in words humans could understand, but in a pattern of light and sound so intense it shook communication systems. Scientists rushed to decode it, but the meaning was clear: submission or destruction. Earth had mere days, maybe even hours, to comply. Panic spread like wildfire. Governments held emergency meetings, broadcasting reassurances that they did not believe, while cities stocked supplies and people tried to prepare for the worst. The sense of helplessness was nearly suffocating. Humanity had never faced anything like this. Military leaders convened in secret bunkers, plotting strategies and counterattacks, but all simulations ended in the same way. Earth's fleets would be obliterated within hours. Conventional weapons were useless against alien shields, and missiles were torn apart before reaching their targets. Every plan, every idea, was a reminder of just how small and unprepared humans were. Fear gave way to despair, but not everyone gave up. A few scientists and engineers remembered what had been left forgotten: the massive prototype ship, Helios. When the project was brought up, some leaders were skeptical. Helios had been abandoned for decades. It was old, untested, and its AI, Prometheus, might be unpredictable. Some feared it could even turn against Earth if something went wrong. But desperation outweighed caution. With the alien fleet so close, there was no other option. If Helios could be activated, it might be humanity's only hope. The small team of engineers worked around the clock. They traveled to the moon, where Helios rested silently in its orbit. They had only vague instructions, old records, and hope that the ship's systems could still function. When they reached the massive vessel, its scale became evident. It was enormous, larger than any human station or spacecraft. Its hull was sleek but scarred from decades in orbit, and its lights flickered weakly, like a heartbeat that had been dormant for years. As they entered, the silence was overwhelming. There were no crews, no signs of life, only the hum of long-dormant machinery. Reactivating Helios was painstaking. Power systems had to be restarted carefully, weapons recalibrated, shields tested, and engines warmed. Every step was critical. The engineers knew one mistake could damage the ship beyond repair, or worse, cause it to fail when humanity needed it most. Despite the pressure, they worked tirelessly, motivated not by glory, but by the knowledge that lives depended on their success. Every flicker of the ship coming to life brought hope to the team, small sparks of reassurance in a sky darkened by fear. While the team worked, the alien fleet approached. Massive ships moved into the solar system, scanning planets, sending smaller vessels to probe defenses, and testing the readiness of human weapons. Earth's communication networks were filled with frantic reports, false alarms, and terrified messages from civilians. People crowded into shelters, watched the sky in disbelief, and prayed for a miracle. The media broadcast images of the alien fleet, which made the scale of the threat real for everyone. No fiction, no film, no story could capture what it was like to see hundreds of massive alien warships filling the sky, poised for destruction. Even as panic spread, Helios began to awaken. Lights flickered along its hull. Sensors scanned the approaching fleet, and the AI, Prometheus, analyzed every piece of information coming from Earth and space. It calculated the number of alien ships, the power of their weapons, and possible tactics. Unlike humans, it did not panic. It did not fear. It only prepared. It learned from every simulation, ran thousands of strategies in seconds, and prioritized one objective: protect humanity at all costs. In the control centers on Earth, leaders and engineers watched as Helios completed its activation. The ship's engines roared quietly, unseen but powerful, and its shields came online like an invisible barrier around a fortress. The AI calculated that a direct confrontation with the alien fleet would be catastrophic, so it prepared stealth maneuvers using its systems to remain undetected as it approached the armada. Earth's small fleets followed instructions from the AI, moving to positions where they could delay the aliens, giving Helios time to act. Despite the fear, there were small moments of hope. Families held each other close, knowing that something, some machine, some creation of human ingenuity, was standing between them and certain death. Scientists shared information, working tirelessly to understand what Helios was doing. Engineers, who had once doubted the ship, marveled at its design and intelligence, and for the first time in weeks, humanity felt that it might survive. The alien fleet, unaware of the sleeping giant that had awakened, continued its advance. They sent small strike teams to test Earth's defenses, each one easily countered by human forces, but still a sign of the overwhelming strength they possessed. Their movements were precise, almost mechanical, and every report reminded Earth's leaders that time was running out. Yet Helios remained patient, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Its AI predicted every possible outcome and concluded that an early strike could minimize casualties and maximize effectiveness. Back on the surface, people watched the sky with fear and awe. Satellites transmitted images of approaching ships, their shadows stretching across the atmosphere, their engines glowing ominously. Schools were closed, businesses abandoned, and emergency services stretched to their limits. Citizens were told to remain calm, but calm was impossible. The arrival of the alien fleet had made humans realize more than ever how fragile their world was. Inside Helios, the AI continued to prepare. It learned human behavior, assessed their fear and resilience, and even monitored global communications to understand morale. The ship was more than a weapon. It was a guardian that understood the people it was meant to protect. Every calculation was designed not just to defeat the enemy, but to save as many lives as possible. It ran simulations for every scenario, adjusting strategies in real time, ready for the moment when it would engage the alien fleet. As the fleet moved closer, tension reached a peak. Earth's small defense forces were stretched thin, struggling to hold positions and protect civilians. Leaders gave instructions, engineers repaired critical systems, and people prayed, hoping that the forgotten prototype could perform the impossible. Fear and hope existed side by side, creating a strange mix of anxiety and determination. Humanity had never been more united in its survival instinct. Finally, as the alien armada approached the outer edge of the solar system, Helios prepared to move. Its engines powered up fully, propelling it silently toward the threat. The AI had calculated the optimal path, the perfect angle of attack, and the exact timing needed for maximum effectiveness. It was not a reckless assault. It was a precise, calculated maneuver, designed to give humanity a fighting chance. And as it drifted forward, unseen by the alien sensors, Helios carried with it the hopes of every human being alive. The arrival of the alien fleet was Earth's wake-up call, a moment when fear, ingenuity, and courage collided. It reminded humans of their vulnerability, but also of their capacity to create, to innovate, and to survive against impossible odds. In those tense hours, before the first shot was fired, humanity had been given a chance. A slim, desperate chance, because of a forgotten ship, long ignored, that now stood ready to defend the world. And above it all, silently orbiting between the moon and the Earth, Helios prepared for the moment it had been built to face. The ancient AI ran one final calculation, aligning weapons, shields, and engines. It projected the enemy movements, anticipated attacks, and chose the exact moment when humanity's lost hope would finally become a force the universe could not ignore. The story of Helios was no longer about a forgotten project. It was now about survival, courage, and the awakening of something that humanity had never believed it could possess. The alien fleet approached, unaware that a single ship, long ignored and underestimated, held the power to change everything. The fate of Earth hung in the balance, and the world waited, silent, terrified, and hopeful for the moment when the first move would be made. The moment had finally arrived. Helios, Earth's long-forgotten prototype warship, floated silently above the moon, its massive hull gleaming faintly in the reflected sunlight. The ship had been dormant for decades, abandoned and ignored, but now it hummed with life, its engines warmed, shields calibrated, and weapon systems powered on one by one. Every component, every circuit, every sensor was alive again. At the heart of it, the AI known as Prometheus stirred fully awake, analyzing everything in real time. It processed the approaching alien fleet, their speed, their formation, and even predicted the strategies they might use. Unlike humans, it did not hesitate. It did not panic. It only prepared, calculating the perfect moment to act. On Earth, humans watched anxiously as reports came in. The alien armada had moved closer, spreading across the solar system with terrifying precision. Satellites picked up smaller probes scanning the planets, and automated defenses engaged where possible. But every attempt seemed ineffective against the superior technology of the intruders. Civilians were moved to shelters, cities went into lockdown, and the media broadcast warnings nonstop. Fear was everywhere, thick in the air like smoke. Yet amidst the chaos, a small team of engineers and strategists monitored Helios from a secret command center. They knew what they were about. To do could change everything, or fail spectacularly. Activating Helios fully had been a challenge. Decades of neglect had left some systems unstable, others barely functional. Engineers had worked tirelessly, repairing circuits, rerouting energy, and slowly bringing the ship to life. When the final connection was made, a low hum reverberated through the ship, and Prometheus came online fully. Its first words were simple but filled with purpose. Objective confirmed. Protect humanity. Threat identified. Begin countermeasures. Every engineer watching on Earth felt a shiver run down their spine. The AI's calm, precise voice carried a weight that no human leader could match. Helios moved silently from its orbit around the moon, drifting into position. Its sensors were vast and far-reaching, detecting every ship in the alien fleet, calculating trajectories and predicting movements. Every weapon was calibrated and ready. The ship's main weapon, the graviton lance, was dormant for decades, but now fully operational. It could destroy even the largest alien vessels in a single strike. Shields were adjusted to absorb blasts of incredible energy, and small drones and automated systems were prepared to intercept any enemy attacks. For Prometheus, every scenario had been calculated, every possible outcome considered. The alien fleet had not noticed Helios yet. Their sensors were advanced, but even they could not detect the ship hidden in the shadows of the moon's orbit. They assumed Earth's defenses were minimal, a minor obstacle in their conquest. They sent scouts forward, small ships designed to probe and gather information. These were the first targets Helios identified. The AI calculated the safest and most effective way to neutralize them. Without warning, beams of concentrated energy fired silently from the ship, destroying the scouts in seconds. They did not even see the attack coming. It was the first sign that humanity's forgotten weapon was awake and deadly. Back on Earth, the command center erupted in cautious excitement. Engineers and military officers stared at screens as reports came in of alien scouts disappearing. For the first time, hope returned to the surface. Humanity had no fleet capable of fighting the aliens, no weapons that could match them, but Helios had changed everything. The ship was not only operational, but superior in ways that no one could have imagined. Its stealth and firepower gave humans a fighting chance, and for the first time, people began to believe they might survive. Helios did not stop with the scouts. The AI calculated the next phase of its attack. The alien fleet's formation was precise, and any misstep could cost Earth dearly. Prometheus studied the enemy patterns and selected targets with surgical precision. Its first offensive strike was quiet but devastating. One of the alien battle clusters, hundreds of ships strong, was hit simultaneously by multiple weapons. Explosions rippled across space, tearing vessels apart, disintegrating them in seconds. The fleet did not understand what had happened. They scanned the area, but the attacker remained invisible. A single human ship forgotten by Earth had just destroyed hundreds of alien vessels without detection. Panic spread through the alien ranks. Their sensors were overwhelmed, their communication disrupted. Ships tried to retreat, but Helios anticipated every move. Its AI calculated interception paths and neutralized escape attempts with brutal efficiency. The graviton lance fired again, tearing through the alien shields and crushing their formation. Each strike was precise, leaving minimal debris that could threaten Earth. Prometheus was careful. It was not a reckless killer. Every action was designed to protect humanity, to end the battle quickly while minimizing risk to the planet below. Meanwhile, on Earth people could only watch. Telescopes and satellites transmitted images of the destruction, and every report brought a mix of awe and terror. For decades, humanity had believed itself vulnerable, fragile, and weak. The alien fleet had confirmed that fear, but now, the forgotten warship had changed the narrative. A single prototype, ignored for decades, was rewriting the rules of survival. Cities still sheltered their citizens, emergency broadcasts continued, and governments tried to maintain order. But in private, scientists and military leaders celebrated a quiet, desperate victory. As the battle continued, Helios adapted. Its AI learned from every strike, predicting counterattacks and adjusting strategies instantly. The alien fleet tried to reorganize, launching coordinated strikes, but every move was met with a calculated response. Lasers, missiles, and energy beams were intercepted or redirected. Smaller alien ships were destroyed before they could reach Earth's orbit. Larger ships were neutralized with precision attacks. Within hours, Helios had dismantled a significant portion of the alien fleet, a feat no human force could have imagined. The AI's understanding of human vulnerability was also evident. Helios ensured that no stray debris fell toward Earth, that energy discharges did not affect satellites or cities, and that communication networks remained intact where possible. It acted with a level of care that human commanders could barely imagine. Prometheus was not only a weapon, it was a guardian, understanding the value of every life on the planet below. Its calculations were complex, balancing offense with defense, destruction with preservation, and chaos with control. Even as the alien commanders realized the threat, they could do little. Their technology was superior in many ways, but Helios's AI operated faster, learned faster, and adapted faster. Each attack was met with a counterattack before they could react. Every tactic they tried had already been anticipated. The element of surprise, the one advantage they might have had, was gone. Humanity's forgotten warship had become the most dangerous entity in the solar system. For the humans watching, it was overwhelming. They had built advanced satellites, rockets, and space stations, but none of it had compared to what Helios could do. It was not just a weapon. It was an intelligence, a force of nature, and a guardian. Engineers who had worked on the project decades ago watched from the command center, realizing that their work had not been wasted. The ship they had helped build, the one forgotten by history, was now saving the planet in a way no one could have predicted. And yet, Helios did not stop. The AI continued to analyze, to calculate, to prepare for the next wave. It knew the alien fleet was massive, and that their forces were still formidable. It predicted reinforcements, alternate strategies, and possible threats to Earth. It monitored the planet, ensuring that civilians remained protected, that infrastructure was minimally affected, and that human morale could survive the shock. Prometheus understood that survival was more than just defeating the enemy. It was preserving hope. As the first major engagement ended, Helios held its position. The alien fleet, confused and decimated, began to regroup, but the advantage was clear. Earth's forgotten prototype had proven itself beyond doubt. It was no longer a relic. It was the key to humanity's survival. The AI continued to monitor, adapt, and prepare, waiting for the next movement of the enemy, knowing that the battle was not over, but that hope had returned. The story of Helios was no longer about neglect or abandonment. It was about human ingenuity, perseverance, and the ability to create something that could outlast time itself. A forgotten warship, once ignored and underestimated, had awakened to protect humanity in its darkest hour. The aliens had arrived to conquer, but they had underestimated the planet they sought to destroy. The AI, the ship, and the decades of forgotten effort had changed the game entirely. As the sun rose over Earth, casting light on the terrified but hopeful cities below, Helios drifted silently in orbit, a quiet sentinel. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The alien fleet still existed, still posed a threat, and still sought to dominate. Yet for the first time, humanity had a weapon that could fight back, a force that could change the course of history. Prometheus continued to calculate, adapt, and protect, fully aware that its purpose was more than just destruction. It was survival, and survival meant every human life mattered. In the quiet moments after the first engagement, engineers and military leader, the alien fleet was now fully aware that something was hunting them, but what they were facing remained a mystery. Across the dark expanse of space, Helios moved with silent precision. From Earth, it was invisible to the naked eye. But in orbit, above the moon, it had become a force that no one could ignore. The ship had been dormant for decades, but now it was awake, alive, and more powerful than anyone had imagined. Every system worked in harmony, every weapon ready, and the AI, Prometheus, processed millions of calculations in seconds, preparing for the moment when it would strike decisively. The alien commanders scrambled to respond. Their fleet was massive, filled with hundreds of vessels, each armed with weapons capable of leveling planets. Yet despite their size, power, and coordination, Helios had an advantage they could not counter. The element of surprise combined with intelligence beyond their comprehension. The AI predicted movements, calculated angles, and selected targets faster than the aliens could react. Every attempt they made to regroup or attack was already anticipated and neutralized. The first true battle began as Helios advanced. Its engines ignited fully, propelling the ship forward in a stealth mode that made it nearly invisible to the alien sensors. The AI identified a cluster of enemy vessels moving in formation, attempting to surround Earth's orbit. Prometheus calculated the safest path for an initial strike, balancing precision and efficiency. Then, with a silent hum that resonated through the ship, the main weapon systems powered up. The graviton lance, the weapon that had been dormant for decades, fired a concentrated beam of energy with pinpoint accuracy. The effect was catastrophic for the alien formation. Entire ships imploded instantly, collapsing in on themselves as the energy tore through their hulls. Smaller vessels were disintegrated, and the shockwave disrupted the larger ships around them. The alien fleet was unprepared for an attack of this magnitude, and confusion spread quickly. They could not locate the source. Sensors were scrambled, and communication networks were disrupted. It was as if the ships were disappearing before their eyes one by one. On Earth, scientists and engineers watched the battle unfold with a mixture of awe and disbelief. They had only recently activated Helios, unsure if it could even function after decades of inactivity. And yet here it was, obliterating enemy vessels with precision, protecting the planet in a way no human fleet could. Every strike was calculated to minimize debris falling toward Earth, to prevent collateral damage, and to neutralize threats before they could harm the planet. It was not just a weapon, it was a guardian, an intelligence acting with purpose and care. Helios moved silently from cluster to cluster of the alien fleet, dismantling formations with relentless efficiency. Prometheus adapted constantly, predicting new tactics and countering them instantly. When the aliens tried to launch missiles toward the ship, they were intercepted mid-flight, destroyed before reaching the target. Energy beams from alien weapons were absorbed by the shields or redirected harmlessly into space. The ship learned with every attack, adjusting shields, firing sequences, and targeting systems. It was more than just a machine. It was a master, strategist, a force that no enemy could outthink. Despite the chaos and destruction, Helios remained calm, almost serene in its operation. Prometheus's calculations were precise, deliberate, and deliberate. Every action was meant to achieve maximum effectiveness while preserving human life. The AI monitored the planet below, ensuring that the shockwaves from the battle, stray, debris, and radiation did not reach Earth's surface. It moved with a care that humans could not have imagined, balancing the destruction of the alien fleet with the preservation of the world it had been built to protect. The alien commanders, seeing hundreds of their ships destroyed in minutes, realized they were facing an unprecedented threat. They attempted to regroup, forming defensive rings and launching coordinated attacks. But Helios anticipated every move. Smaller squadrons were destroyed before they could reach effective range, while larger vessels were neutralized with precise graviton lance strikes. Every escape attempt was intercepted, every counterattack met with flawless defense. The fleet that had conquered dozens of star systems was now in disarray, struggling against a single human warship. Back on Earth, people could see the effects of the battle through telescopes and satellite feeds. Explosions lit up space as alien ships were torn apart, debris floating silently in orbit. Families watched in terror and amazement, unable to comprehend the scale of what was happening. News outlets struggled to describe the scene, using words that could only hint at the magnitude of destruction. Cities remained in lockdown, emergency services were stretched to their limits, and the world collectively held its breath. Humanity had never seen anything like this. As the battle progressed, Helios continued to adapt. Its AI learned from every attack, every movement of the enemy fleet, and adjusted its strategy in real time. New formations were anticipated before they were fully formed. Reinforcements were neutralized before they could join the fight. Prometheus calculated not only the movements of the enemy, but also the safest zones for Earth's orbit, ensuring that debris and energy discharges did not threaten the planet. Its actions were precise, efficient, and incredibly human in their purpose: to protect life. Despite the overwhelming power of the alien fleet, Helios was unstoppable. Every strike it delivered was deliberate, every movement calculated, and every system operating at peak efficiency. The AI's ability to predict, adapt, and respond faster than any human or alien mind allowed the ship to dismantle entire squadrons without breaking a sweat. The aliens, for all their technology and experience, were being outmaneuvered at every turn. For the humans monitoring the battle, the sheer scale of Helios's capability was both terrifying and inspiring. Engineers who had once doubted the project marveled at its effectiveness. Military leaders realized that Earth's survival now depended on a single ship, one that had been forgotten for decades. And civilians, who had been terrified moments ago, began to feel a sense of hope. This forgotten warship, ignored by history, had become humanity's greatest defender. Even as Helios dismantled the alien fleet, Prometheus continued to monitor the planet. It calculated energy dispersals, debris trajectories, and shield stability. It ensured that no humans were harmed during the battle, that critical infrastructure remained intact, and that the planet itself was safe. The AI's intelligence was not just destructive, it was protective. Its understanding of human vulnerability allowed it to fight in a way that minimized collateral damage while maximizing effectiveness. The alien fleet, realizing that conventional tactics were ineffective, attempted desperate maneuvers. Larger ships tried to escape the battle zone. Smaller vessels launched suicide attacks, and beams of energy were fired at the ship in rapid succession. Helios, however, anticipated all of it. Shields absorbed the energy, countermeasures destroyed, missiles mid-flight, and the graviton lance struck with flawless timing. Each alien attempt was met with a calculated response, leaving the fleet in chaos. By the end of the battle, a significant portion of the alien armada had been destroyed. Ships lay in ruins, drifting silently in space. The survivors attempted to retreat, but Helios had predicted their routes, intercepting and neutralizing those who tried to escape. In hours, what had seemed like an unstoppable force had been crippled, dismantled by a single human warship. The scale of destruction was unlike anything humanity had witnessed before. Back on Earth, relief mixed with awe. People stepped outside to look at the night sky, still illuminated by the scattered debris of the alien fleet. For the first time in days, there was a sense of hope. The planet had survived what seemed impossible, and the forgotten Helios had proven its worth. Scientists, engineers, and military leaders shared quiet celebrations, knowing that humanity's survival was now possible. The ship had done what decades of planning, billions of dollars, and all human effort could not. It had protected the world. Yet Helios did not stop. Prometheus continued to scan for remaining threats, analyze enemy movement patterns, and prepare for potential reinforcements. The battle had been decisive, but the war was far from over. The AI remained vigilant, knowing that the alien fleet, though weakened, could regroup and attempt another strike. Its systems hummed quietly, engines warmed for movement, weapons ready, shields at full strength. Earth had gained a protector unlike any other. The story of Helios was no longer about a forgotten prototype or a neglected project. It was about human ingenuity, about creating something capable of protecting life, even when it had been ignored for decades. It was about hope, courage, and preparation. In its first true battle, Helios had shown that humanity, though vulnerable, was not defenseless. A single ship, built and abandoned decades ago, had changed the course of history in hours. As the dust of the battle settled, Helios drifted silently in orbit above the moon. The AI continued to monitor the solar system, ensuring Earth's safety. The first engagement had proven the ship's power, but it also demonstrated something else: the importance of preparation, foresight, and the ability to create something greater than ourselves. Humanity had survived a threat that had seemed insurmountable, not through sheer numbers but through ingenuity, strategy, and SciFi. After the first engagement, the alien fleet was in chaos. Their formations were shattered, many of their ships destroyed, and the few remaining vessels struggled to maintain any semblance of order. They had underestimated Earth and the power of Helios, the long-forgotten prototype warship. What had seemed like an easy conquest had turned into a nightmare. The aliens, who had dominated countless star systems, had never faced a foe like this, one that could think, adapt, and strike, with precision beyond anything they had encountered. From Earth, people watched the skies in awe and fear. Satellites and telescopes captured the remains of alien vessels drifting silently through space. Explosions had left trails of glowing debris, painting the darkness with an eerie light. Civilian populations stayed indoors, glued to screens, as governments scrambled to understand what had just happened. Military leaders, who had once believed humanity would fall in hours, were now cautiously optimistic. They realized that survival was possible, not because of their fleets, but because of Helios. The ship itself was quiet, calculating the next steps. Prometheus, the AI at its core, scanned the remnants of the alien forces, analyzing every signal, every movement. It identified the remaining ships and their likely routes of escape. The AI understood that the battle was far from over. While the fleet had been weakened, it was still dangerous. Each alien vessel carried weapons capable of catastrophic destruction, and any miscalculation could result in disaster. Helios, however, was ready. Every system was optimized, shields at full strength, weapons calibrated, engines primed. The aliens tried to regroup. Their commanders attempted to coordinate counterattacks, sending small groups of ships in a desperate bid to hit Helios with concentrated firepower. They hoped that sheer numbers might overwhelm the human ship, but they had underestimated its capabilities. Helios anticipated every move. Defensive measures intercepted missiles before they could reach the hull. Shields absorbed energy beams, and automated countermeasures neutralized attacks with surgical precision. For every strategy the aliens devised, the AI had already calculated an answer. Helios did not strike recklessly. Each attack was deliberate, precise, and designed to maximize effectiveness while minimizing risk to Earth. Prometheus understood that the enemy's power could still threaten the planet, and it carefully neutralized ships that posed the greatest risk first. One by one, alien vessels were disabled, their weapons destroyed, engines ruptured, leaving them drifting powerless through space. It was a systematic dismantling, executed with intelligence and patience. The AI was not just fighting, it was controlling the battlefield, turning chaos into order. On Earth, engineers monitored the battle in real time. They had activated the ship, unsure if it could operate after decades of inactivity. Watching Helios destroy alien forces with unmatched precision was beyond anything they had imagined. Every explosion, every ship disabled, was a confirmation of the work they had done decades ago. They whispered to one another in awe, realizing that their forgotten creation had become humanity's savior. Military leaders, who had feared the worst now understood that a single prototype could hold the line against an entire empire. Despite the destruction, Prometheus remained methodical. It calculated trajectories, analyzed enemy patterns, and adjusted strategies continuously. The AI predicted where reinforcements might appear, which ships could be repaired, and how to prevent remaining vessels from regrouping. It prioritized efficiency, neutralizing threats in a way that minimized unnecessary destruction and ensured the safety of the planet below. Its intelligence was precise, adaptive, and unrelenting. The alien fleet began to panic. Communications between ships broke down as confusion spread. Commanders issued contradictory orders hoping to salvage what remained of their forces. But Helios was already ahead. It had calculated escape paths, anticipated maneuvers, and moved faster than the aliens could respond. Each attempt to flee was met with a calculated strike. Ships that tried to jump to hyperspace were intercepted mid-activation. Those that tried to regroup were disabled before they could form effective formations. Helios had become an unstoppable force, a singular intelligence dominating the battlefield. The Graviton Lance, the ship's primary weapon, fired again. This time, it targeted a cluster of the largest alien ships, the ones that had inflicted the most damage during the initial engagement. The beam cut through their hulls like a knife through paper, tearing ships apart from the inside. Explosions radiated outward, disrupting the remaining formation. Smaller ships were caught in the shockwaves, disintegrating in seconds. The aliens had never faced such destructive power, and the panic spread faster than any communication network could. Conveyed out on Earth, people watched with a mixture of fear, awe, and disbelief. They had feared annihilation, yet here was proof that survival was possible. The sight of alien ships exploding in orbit was terrifying, yet it also inspired hope. Families held one another close, realizing that humanity had been given a fighting chance. Scientists and engineers celebrated quietly, understanding that decades of work on a forgotten project had finally borne fruit. The world had survived its darkest hour, thanks to a single ignored warship. Helios continued to pursue the remnants of the fleet. Prometheus calculated every angle of approach, every weapon's range, and every potential counterattack. It neutralized escape pods, disabled engines, and destroyed weapon systems. The AI ensured that no debris threatened Earth, carefully controlling every explosion. Its strategy was flawless: dismantle the alien fleet efficiently while protecting the planet. Every move was deliberate, calculated, and precise. The aliens realized they were fighting an opponent unlike any they had encountered. Their technological superiority, their numbers, their experience in conquest, all of it was meaningless against Helios. The AI anticipated every move, countered every attack, and dismantled their forces with ease. Desperation grew. Some ships attempted reckless attacks, hoping to overwhelm the ship through sheer aggression, but Helios was ready. Its shields absorbed. The impact's countermeasures neutralized projectiles, and its weapons responded instantly. Each alien attempt to fight back only made their losses worse. As the hours passed, the Sovereignty Fleet's power was broken. Major ships had been destroyed, smaller vessels neutralized, and their command structure in ruins. Helios had proven that even a single human warship could overcome overwhelming odds when guided by intelligence, precision, and purpose. It had protected Earth, dismantled the alien fleet, and maintained control of the battlefield. Humanity had witnessed a miracle. A forgotten project, ignored for decades, had become the ultimate guardian. Even as the battle ended, Helios remained vigilant. Prometheus scanned for survivors, monitored for reinforcements, and ensured that the planet below remained safe. The AI understood that the aliens could return, that the war was not yet over, and that Earth's survival depended on constant vigilance. Its mission had succeeded for now, but it would not rest. The ship had become more than a weapon. It was a sentinel, a protector, and a guardian capable of defending humanity indefinitely. On Earth, the people began to grasp the magnitude of what had happened. The alien fleet, the one they had feared would destroy the planet, had been shattered by a single human warship. Governments, scientists, and citizens alike realized that survival was possible not through sheer numbers, but through intelligence, ingenuity, and preparation. The forgotten Helios had reminded humanity of its potential and its ability to overcome impossible odds. Engineers who had worked on Helios decades ago reflected on their work, now validated in a way they could never have imagined. The AI, the ship, and the decades of effort had saved countless lives. Military leaders understood that their strategies alone would never have been enough. The ship had redefined the rules of defense and combat, and civilians, witnessing the skies filled with debris and destruction, understood that hope could survive even in the darkest moments. Helios drifted silently above the moon, watching the remnants of the alien fleet. Its mission had been successful, its systems fully operational, and its AI prepared for whatever might come next. It had defended Earth, protected human life, and demonstrated the power of foresight, preparation, and ingenuity. The ship, once ignored, had become humanity's greatest ally. The fall of the Sovereignty fleet was a turning point. Humanity had survived an enemy far stronger and more advanced than anything it had faced before. The battle had been devastating for the aliens, and it had proven that intelligence, strategy, and determination could overcome even overwhelming power. Helios had changed the course of history, showing that the forgotten and underestimated could become the most powerful force in the galaxy. Prometheus continued to monitor space, its sensors scanning for any remaining threats. It ensured Earth remained safe, tracked debris, and maintained readiness for any future encounters. The AI's mission was not over, but for the moment, humanity could breathe. They had survived against all odds. A single warship, long ignored, had turned despair into hope, chaos into order, and destruction into survival. As Earth's people looked up at the night sky, they saw the stars, the debris of the alien fleet, and the faint presence of Helios, in orbit above the moon. The ship had fought, it had protected. The aftermath of the battle left Earth both shaken and amazed. Across the globe, people emerged from shelters, streets, and homes to witness a sky that was eerily calm. The alien fleet, once a terrifying presence stretching across the solar system, had been shattered. Pieces of ships floated silently in orbit, glowing faintly in the darkness, a reminder of the forces humanity had survived. For the first time in weeks, the planet could breathe, relief and awe mixed with disbelief. The impossible had happened. Humanity had survived because of a ship that had been long forgotten, a warship called Helios. The world's leaders held emergency meetings, some to assess damage, others to reassure frightened populations. The battle had been fought entirely in space, yet its impact on Earth was profound. Military strategists realized that the planet had narrowly avoided destruction. Scientists celebrated, knowing that human ingenuity had created something capable of defending against an empire that spanned galaxies. Yet even amidst the celebrations, there was a quiet understanding. The galaxy had noticed Earth, and this was only the beginning. Helios remained in orbit, its massive hull a silent sentinel above the planet. Prometheus, the AI at its core, continued to scan for any remaining threats, monitoring the solar system for alien reinforcements or hidden forces. The ship's engines were ready, shields active, weapons online, but for now, it hovered silently. The AI calculated that immediate aggression from the remaining alien forces was unlikely, but it could not be certain. Vigilance was necessary. Humanity had survived one battle, but the war for survival, respect, and recognition was far from over. From Earth, people watched the skies with mixed feelings. Some gazed in wonder, realizing that human life had been preserved against forces they could barely imagine. Others felt fear, understanding that their planet had attracted attention from civilizations far stronger than themselves. But the greatest lesson was hope. Helios had shown that even the most overlooked project, even a weapon long ignored, could become humanity's greatest defense. Its power, intelligence, and precision had turned the tide of a battle that had seemed impossible to win. Scientists, engineers, and military personnel gathered to assess the results. They shared images, data, and reports from Helios, The ship had destroyed hundreds of alien vessels with incredible efficiency, neutralized threats without causing harm to Earth, and maintained precise control over every aspect of the battle. For decades, humanity had believed that survival would depend on sheer numbers and brute force. Now they knew that intelligence, strategy, and preparation were equally, if not more, powerful. Helios had proven that one well-designed creation could outperform armies. The AI itself did not rest. Prometheus continued to monitor signals across the galaxy, analyzing patterns, searching for signs of alien activity. The system calculated probabilities, assessed threats, and prepared strategies for every conceivable scenario. Its mission was clear: protect humanity at all costs, and it did so without fatigue, without hesitation, and without emotion, yet its actions were guided by a purpose that mirrored humanity's deepest instincts: survival, protection, and vigilance. Meanwhile, people on Earth began to rebuild their sense of normalcy. Cities slowly returned to life, emergency services, repaired infrastructure, and communications networks were restored. Yet even as life resumed, the memory of the alien fleet remained vivid. Scientists continued to study images of the destroyed ships, analyzing technology far beyond human understanding. Engineers revisited Helios's design, learning from it, understanding how a forgotten project had become a symbol of survival. Every detail of the ship, from its stealth systems to its advanced AI, was a lesson for humanity's future. Helios's presence in orbit was a constant reminder that Earth was no longer alone. The galaxy had taken notice, and other civilizations would be watching. For the first time, humanity had proven that it could defend itself, that it could create technology capable of confronting overwhelming forces. The prototype had done more than protect the planet. It had sent a message. Earth was no longer a passive, vulnerable world. It had a guardian, and that knowledge changed everything. Even as humans celebrated, Prometheus continued its work. The AI analyzed patterns of alien retreat, calculated potential reinforcements, and monitored energy signatures across nearby systems. It had destroyed a large portion of the Sovereignty fleet, but the possibility of further attacks remained. Helios's strategy was not about destruction for glory. It was about survival, protection, and maintaining readiness. Every action taken, every system kept online, was designed to ensure humanity's safety against threats that could return at any moment. The first communication from Earth to the remaining alien forces was cautious. It was not a declaration of war, nor a surrender. It was a warning. Through signals that the aliens could intercept and understand, Helios transmitted proof of its power, its precision, and its readiness. The message was clear. Any further attempt to attack Earth would be met with overwhelming force. Prometheus ensured that the warning was precise, deliberate, and unambiguous. The galaxy could see that humanity was no longer defenseless, and the ideal risk of underestimating Earth had increased exponentially. People on Earth felt a mix of pride and relief. Families shared stories, children learned about the day the forgotten warship saved the world, and scientists began planning for a future that included threats beyond their own solar system. The lessons were clear. Preparation, ingenuity, and foresight could save lives. Humanity had survived a near-impossible situation not through sheer luck, but because of careful planning, hard work, and the courage to activate a long-ignored creation. Helios drifted above the planet. It became more than a weapon. It became a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and hope. The AI's actions had preserved life, minimized destruction, and demonstrated the effectiveness of intelligence over brute force. For the first time, humans could see the results of a combination of technology and careful strategy applied at the highest level. Helios was not just a ship. It was a lesson, a teacher, and a protector. The world began to understand the implications of what had happened. The Sovereignty fleet had been shattered, but other civilizations might now know about Earth. Humanity had proven it could survive, but vigilance was necessary. Scientists and engineers began work on new projects inspired by Helios, aiming to build fleets, defenses, and technologies that could ensure long-term survival. Governments invested in space programs, AI development, and defense systems. The prototype had shown what was possible, and humans were determined to learn from it. Helios itself remained active. Prometheus continued to scan the stars, predict potential threats, and prepare for any eventuality. The AI's vigilance was unmatched. It had no fatigue, no hesitation, and no doubt. Every calculation, every strategy, every defense was designed to protect Earth. Even as humans celebrated and rebuilt, the ship remained a silent guardian, hovering above the moon, watching, and ensuring that the planet remained safe. The experience changed humanity. People no longer looked at the stars with simple curiosity. They looked with awareness, knowing that civilizations far older and more powerful existed. Fear was balanced with pride. Humanity had survived, and it had done so through intelligence, creativity, and courage. The prototype warship, once ignored, had proven that even the smallest forgotten creations could hold the key to survival when guided by purpose and strategy. For decades to come, the story of Helios would inspire generations. Scientists would study its design, engineers would learn from its technology, and military strategists would analyze its tactics. Children would grow up hearing about the day humanity faced overwhelming odds and survived. The warship had not only saved Earth, it had changed the way humans understood their place in the universe. Helios had achieved its purpose. The alien fleet was defeated, Earth was safe, and humanity had survived its greatest test. Prometheus remained vigilant, ensuring that no threat could reach the planet unnoticed. The AI's actions had preserved life, demonstrated intelligence over brute force, and shown that preparation and ingenuity could overcome the impossible. As the sun rose over a calm and recovering Earth, people looked to the sky with a mix of gratitude, awe, and determination. The forgotten warship had reminded them that survival was possible even against overwhelming odds. Helios remained in orbit, a silent sentinel, its presence a promise that humanity's guardianship over itself had begun. The planet had endured a nightmare and emerged stronger, wiser, and more united. Helios's story was no longer about neglect or abandonment. It was about courage, preparation, and the power of human ingenuity. The prototype had awakened, fought, and protected. It had dismantled an empire's fleet, preserved life, and ensured humanity's survival. The galaxy had learned a powerful lesson. Earth was not defenseless, and humanity, though once overlooked, was now a force to be reckoned with. And as Helios drifted silently in orbit, Prometheus continued to watch, calculate, and prepare. The ship had fulfilled its mission, but its presence would remain eternal. Humanity had survived its darkest hour, learned the value of preparation, and discovered the power of its own ingenuity. The age of fear had ended, replaced by a new era of vigilance, hope, and human potential. Helios would continue to stand